Welcome and thank you for being here. My name is Ayla Nova and it is an honor to share the practice of Yoga Nidra with you. I wanted a moment to introduce myself to you, give you an opportunity to understand what Yoga Nidra is and how I came to practice it, share it, and also how you can best prepare yourself for the practice of Yoga Nidra, or what is also known as NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. What is Yoga Nidra? It is not meditation. It is a state of being, of non-doing, of becoming less of the me and more of the I that can observe all, that is being experienced, that is being witnessed, which is being sensed, felt, and Yoga Nidra is an opportunity to allow your body to rejuvenate, to restore. The sympathetic nervous system moves into the parasympathetic nervous system as you calm the body down and allow it to know that it is in a space that is safe for you to practice. And you can do this by preparing a comfortable space to practice Yoga Nidra, which I'll get into later. Through this time that the world is going through, there is a lot of influences that are happening, and our influences can impact the way that our nervous system is set. As we begin to harness the transformational powers of these practices like Yoga Nidra or NSDR, we are essentially strengthening our mental fitness. In our culture, it's often thought that the more you do, the more results that you're going to get. And although that's been a part of our evolution, another part of our evolution has been resting, allowing ourselves to restore the body, restore the mind. And this is where all of the amazing thinkers often come up with these thoughts. It's not out of struggling or pushing to find an answer, it's a letting go, a surrendering. And the more that you can begin to surrender into this practice, the more you're going to be able to see transformation. This is inevitable. Through the practice of Yoga Nidra, we work with what is called a Sankapla. When we're not in harmony with ourselves, often the mind begins to create narratives and stories that can limit us. They may have served us in the past, but now we've found that the systems that created them are now outdated. And so by creating a Sankapla, an I am statement that resonates deeply, that is present tense, which is concise and positive and resonates with us deeply, allows for us to see through a new lens, one that's more true to our reality. And as you begin to deepen your practice, you start to recognize this Sankapla more than you begin to recognize what limited you in the past. You may be practicing Yoga Nidra for a number of reasons. Chronic pain reduction, allowing yourself to move into a state of non-doing, of simply being because of being pulled too far into the future, which causes anxiety, or too far into the past, which causes depression. And what this practice does is allow for not the world outside of us to disappear, but for us to start recognizing the world that is influencing how we perceive the outer world. And so as we begin to observe our reactions, observe our reflections and emotions, feeling sensations, we start to strengthen our emotional intelligence, our mental intelligence, our ability to create and to find joy and to allow ourselves to experience without reacting. And the more that we can respond to what we're experiencing, naturally we begin to recognize it in the outer world, and it changes our perception. And when we change our perception, we change our world. So what happened in my experience with Yoga Nidra was, after I had taken my yoga teacher training in India, I was studying under a Tantra ashram school, and this lineage helped with allowing you to scan the body at the beginning and at the end of the practice, and you really are relaxed into yoga. When I came back to North America, I found that it was very difficult to find similar practices like this. The closest thing was restorative, and then eventually someone introduced me to Yoga Nidra. And through that experience, I had a similar sensation as I had in India, which was this oneness, this sense of openness. And in Yoga Nidra, we call this Ananda Maya Kosha, the layer of our being that allows for bliss to exist. And that curiosity continued, and a few years later, I ended up in the hospital. I was diagnosed in 2017 with a very rare form of leukemia. And this type of leukemia was known to go to the brain. So I wanted to strengthen my brain as much as possible. So I started practicing Yoga Nidra. Eventually, the chemotherapy protocols lowered my immune system to the point that I was very susceptible to illness, and I ended up getting a blood infection that landed me in the ICU. During that time, I was in a coma. I was intubated and essentially had to completely shut down my body so that I could restore. As someone who was active, as someone who was traveling often and had a very wanderlust lifestyle, it was very damaging, of course, to the mind and to the body to go through this experience. And so I started leaning on Yoga Nidra as a way to just be at peace with where I was in each present moment. This helped me get to sleep when I was suffering from insomnia. It allowed me to be with the presence of sensation when I was experiencing chronic pain and alleviate some of that for me. And as time went on, the practice of using a Sankapla actually allowed for me to align in my heart and my mind. And through that, it was extremely transformational. And since then, I've continued on this practice and continued on this journey, which eventually brought me to the point I wanted to share it with all of you. Now, this video is replacing the very first Yoga Nidra video that I ever put out, and it wasn't actually a Yoga Nidra. It was, again, an introduction to this practice. Shortly after filming, I ended up in the ICU once again. I had fallen and hit my head and gotten a traumatic brain injury, which is so interesting because if you listen to the video, I say this: all of us are going to, at some point in our lives, get uncomfortable, maybe even at some point in our day, maybe at some point in the next hour. And that was the beginning of this channel. So through this practice, I have utilized Yoga Nidra not only to help me overcome cancer, but also to recover from a traumatic brain injury. I don't love learning lessons this way, but it seems to be the way that I learn lessons. And now I'm working on shifting that narrative as well, because I feel as though I have learned very much through physical pain and very much through difficult emotions like grief and anguish and all of those things. So I empathize and I can be compassionate towards all of you because in some way or aspect I can relate. So I've created these Yoga Nidras out of a space of love, and I hope that they also show you that non-doing, simply being present with yourself, with your experience, can really transform the way that you experience the outer world. And the way to practice Yoga Nidra is like this. If you're doing it traditionally, you want to lay on a yoga mat. You'll have your legs comfortably apart, your arms off by your sides, palm facing skyward to receiving, opening up the heart space, the forehead slightly above the chin, elongating the back of the neck, and feeling that your spine is in alignment. Spinal alignment can feel different for everyone. Now, the next thing is that if you are someone that is suffering from chronic pain or needs additional comforts, you can use things like blankets, bolsters, pillows, even eye pillows or eye masks are going to help deepen your practice, or at least bring you to a sense of comfort so that you can truly rest. And other options could be lying on your couch or in your recliner. Now, if you're practicing in your bed, I suggest only doing this if you are practicing for the purpose of falling asleep. At all states of consciousness, you will receive the benefits of Yoga Nidra. As I mentioned before, you're oscillating between the alpha and theta brainwave states. And so eventually what happens is you'll go even deeper as the body goes into this parasympathetic nervous system, reaching into the delta brainwave state. This is where you're going to find a deep amount of rest. So know that if you do fall asleep during the practice, that is totally okay, because the body is going to take exactly what it needs. So be gentle with yourself. Practice non-judgment. Practice accepting the emotions that come up as you come out of the practice. If you fall asleep and you're feeling guilt or ashamed or as if you didn't accomplish something, remember, this is a practice of being. It's okay to fall asleep. In the coming months, I'm going to have workshops. I'm going to have a community hub that you can all connect in, and eventually I will be hosting a retreat, which I'm very excited about, and I am manifesting that right now. So if you have any other questions or if you'd like to connect even deeper, feel free to reach out with the newsletter. You can connect to that and I'll be sending out information each month. The other options are you can connect with me on Instagram. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have any concerns, if you have any answers, feel free to leave a message in the comments. I am going to remind you, I am not a doctor. I am a Yoga Nidra guide that is sharing this practice with you. So if you do have any health concerns, I suggest that you bring those to the attention of a physician. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that I am so grateful that you are here, and I look forward to sharing this journey with all of you. Enjoy the almost 100 Yoga Nidra sessions that are available, and know that I am just beyond grateful and truly honored to be able to be here, to be present with all of you, and to be able to share this experience. You are seen, you are heard, and you are loved.